Welcome to Harmons Homeschooled Online Videos. I'm Chef Casey. I'm one of the cooking school chefs at the City Creek location. And today I'm gonna make some seared salmon with some spiralized vegetables. I've got some mushrooms and everything to add in it. And then we're gonna finish it all off with some of our delicatessen pesto sauce. So I'm gonna start with my mushrooms. I like to start with things that hold up well, that can be reheated pretty easily later. So we're gonna kind of layer, it's all in one pot, but we're gonna cook at different times. So I've got my pan here heating up. I'm gonna start at about medium-high heat. What I want to do with these mushrooms is I want to get a little bit of browning on them. I'm gonna put about 2 tablespoons of oil, a little more oil than just like to coat the bottom of the pan, because the mushrooms will soak some of that up. But enough oil that after the mushrooms soak a little bit of that in there, they will, there still will be enough oil for them to not stick. Now I'm gonna add these in, add a bit of salt and pepper in with them. The salt is gonna help actually draw some of that moisture out of the mushrooms, and that's gonna help prevent them from getting too mushy. I don't know if you've ever had really mushy mushrooms. Oftentimes that means that you've stirred them too much, or you just haven't got all the moisture out of them. So I'm gonna kind of spread them around, get them all evenly spaced the best that you can. You want them to be touching the pan the best that you can, and then we're literally just gonna let them sit there for a little bit and until they get a little bit of browning on them. So while that's going, I'm gonna start prepping my tomatoes for the next part of the recipe. Now I have a fun little trick for this. If you haven't seen this before, these tomatoes are really easy to cut, whether you do one at a time, like this, it can be kind of a pain, or if you wanna do similar sizes, so I'm gonna do all one color because these red guys are a little bit bigger this time. Come in here, slice these bad boys in half, all at once. I'll do a few of these. If you can't hear my mushrooms, they're sizzling really well. You do want that heat so that the moisture escapes those mushrooms really a lot faster. Come down here, slice these guys. Oh, I had a couple escapees. Pull those back in there. Go one more time. Then I'm gonna check my mushrooms. You want a little bit of browning, almost like you're searing a steak on your mushrooms. Almost, not quite like a steak, but you do want to see some browning on here. So I'll pick one up. I've got maybe about another minute to go, 30 seconds to a minute, not a crazy long time. And then you can just kind of stir those around a little bit. Getting that first sear on there, that first little bit at the bottom, or at least one side, really is all you need. If you want to be, maybe if you're cooking for like the Queen of England, you could come in, flip them individually, but I'm not going to worry about that this time. All right, get all these guys in here. All right, gonna stir my mushrooms up. Here's a good example of kind of what I'm looking for. I don't know if you can see that, but I've got that little bit of browning there on that. And that's what you want. You want that browning. That's gonna give that mushroom that much better texture. Stir those. I'm gonna get my salmon ready, and by the time my salmon is ready to go in the pan here, these guys will be done and I'll move them off to the side. All right, salmon. Salmon season is coming up. Salmon season is one of my favorites in the summer because you get fresh salmon all summer long, which is just, salmon is amazing. All right, I do prefer to leave the skin on the salmon for cooking, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. It just helps cook it, makes it a lot more flavorful. I'm gonna cut this for 2 people. Make sure you get all the way through that skin. Ooh, got a little. All right, mushrooms are good. gonna just pull these mushrooms out. Pan back on the heat. I'm gonna need just a little bit more oil here. Now this time I'm not gonna go too much. All I need is just enough oil to coat the bottom of the pan. I don't need to worry about the salmon soaking any of this up. The salmon actually has its own fat that will help with this. All right, so skin side down. Now the reason I do skin side down first is so that that skin kind of crisps up. The skin can be edible if you make sure your salmon doesn't have any scales left on it. The skin also, there's a layer of fat between the skin and the flesh itself, and that fat will melt and get into the meat and make it a lot more flavorful that way. And then also while you're turning it and everything, the skin will actually help hold the salmon together so you won't have any break apart. Just makes it a lot easier. It is actually really easy to remove if you don't love the skin after it's cooked also, because that layer of fat has been kind of soaked up in there. You just kind of peel that right off. Season the salmon. Now we're gonna let that sit for about 2 minutes. These guys were a little bit thinner, so I'm gonna go about 2 minutes on this side, let that cook undisturbed, and then we'll finish that. All right, for the rest of the veggies, I've got some spiralized veggies here, zucchini and butternut squash. You can use, here at Harmons, we have spiralized yams, why can't I think? The yellow version, the yellow squash. And then also our beets. If you are gonna use the beets, one little thing, cook the beet ones separate, toss them in at the end. If you do the beets with some of the other flavors, that beet juice will dye everything else red. And if you don't want that, cook it separate. All right, gonna come in here, turn these guys nice and gentle. Now, if your fish, any protein, if your protein is stuck to the bottom of the pan, let it cook a little bit longer. That means it actually hasn't had enough time to cook, and it will lift itself off the bottom of the pan. All right, so I've got that guy flipped over. I'm gonna squeeze a little bit of lemon juice in here. Go both sides. And that is that for that. All right, let that just kind of sit and steam and finish. Then we'll remove that to this pan, and then we're gonna go and move to our next part. All right, so salmon. Let's talk about finishing salmon a little bit. You do want to make sure, you can kind of tell it's done by checking on the side. It's all completely cooked all the way through that way. You can also kind of press and feel. You want it to be a little bit soft, but not too soft. If you have an instant read thermometer, salmon should be cooked to 140 degrees. You don't need to go over that. It does want to finish at 145, but this carryover cook will raise that. So I'll set that over here. Now to finish this, I'm gonna remove just this little bit of stuff. I've got some lemon seeds from the lemon, but everything else in there I'm gonna want because it's gonna keep giving flavor back to this dish. Just a touch more oil again. Gonna add in our onions. Now, I pre-dice these onions. If you wanna see how to dice these onions, watch Chef Leslie's video, her knife skills video. She teaches you how to do that. All right, onions go in. Now, here also at this point, you don't have to use onions. You can use shallots or anything like that if you wanted to. Just whatever you desire at that moment in time. Salt, pepper. Now you're gonna wanna let these go for about 3 minutes until they're nice and soft and translucent. You don't need to fully caramelize these, so there's no need to just go for a long time here. I'm going to add in my tomatoes. they're gonna start releasing some of their juice in here, making a little bit of a sauce for us. While those are going, I'm also going to add in our butternut. Now the reason I'm doing butternut first with this, the butternut will actually take a little bit longer to cook rather than your zucchini. Butternut is a hardier winter squash, where your zucchini is a softer summer squash. So we're gonna let those just kind of hold up in just 1 second. All right, now pesto. I'm gonna talk our pesto. I got this from our deli department. They make it for us. It is really amazing. One of my favorite pestos, nice and fresh. If you wanna make your own pesto, pesto is really easy. Just a little bit of garlic, basil, salt, oil, and Parmesan cheese. That is the nut-free version. If you want to add nuts, you can also add pine nuts. That is traditional, or walnuts work really well with that. Blend that all together in a food processor. You can use the mortar and pestle if you want, but that's a lot more time, and I don't always love to do that. Or take that much time just to make something. Especially if our deli makes it. All right, adding in our zucchini here. I'm just gonna gently start kind of folding this all together. Now, with these vegetables, these spiralized vegetables, I like to leave them with just a little bit of crunch on them. So you don't have to sit and steam them or cook these until they're soggy or gross. They are good with that little bit of bite, but I wanna make sure I get some of those tomatoes and onions folded all through this. If you have a wok, you could do this on a wok. It's actually really fun. You sit and toss it. All right, get a little salt and pepper in there. Then, once the veggies are cooked to your liking, like I said, I don't go very long because I like to have that little bit of bite in there. Really, all I want to do is just kind of warm them up so they're hot and not cold. Gonna add in my pesto. I'm gonna reduce my heat to low while I do this. I'm just gonna stir this all up, making sure that pesto gets everywhere. You can add a little extra Parmesan cheese here if you want. Make it a little more salty, a little less healthy. All right, now to finish this up, grab your plate. Kind of pile those up. Now, if you give a little twist, just like regular pasta noodles, when you're plating it down, if you give a little twist, it kind of helps give it a little bit of volume there, just to help give a little lift. We want a little height here. You can come in, grab a few more tomatoes, kind of scatter those around. All right, come here, get some onions, or mushrooms. And then we'll finish by placing this nice, beautiful piece of salmon right on top. Then I'll give my plate a little wipe. And there's your seared salmon with your spiralized veggies.